So we are live, episode number 7 of Lou Pickney Plays Total Extreme Wrestling 2020. Played some yesterday evening and ended up hitting the time limit. By that I mean the start of AEW Double or Nothing. Really fun show tonight. There are some people working just so hard to make that work, and it did. At least for me it did. The vast majority of it. We can talk about that as this live stream progresses. So I got cut off. I didn't get cut off, but the time limit hit for adding the pre-show matches, so I've taken the liberty of doing that. Now, Lloyd and Briggs were sent down directly from AEW. I guess I should probably explain what I'm doing here, as opposed to just assuming people know. I'm playing as a company called Launch Pro Wrestling that is serving as a feeder promotion to All Elite Wrestling. So I'm the child company controlled by me that is under All Elite Wrestling controlled by the computer. Now mine is an all men's promotion, and I've got a separate one I created for the computer to run as an all women's promotion. Mine's called Launch, theirs is called Sharp. This really isn't the best screen to show it to you, but so that's the idea behind this. So I've got some talent that quite a bit actually, talent that I've signed, but it's with AEW's money. And there's some people they signed with the idea of sending them to me. And two of those people, Jimmy Lloyd and Josh Briggs, will be on the pre-show tonight. PB Smooth is another. Donovan Danhausen is the, I think he's the last of the bunch on that list, yeah. And then Alicia Fox, who was sent to me to be a manager. So the way I have it set up, because they also set up, this was the computer doing this, set up Dave Prazak to be the CEO of the company I'm running. So anything that involves management would come through him, and so on and so forth. But because I have myself in the game as a play-by-play guy, and I've already got Lenny Leonard, for as much as Dave and Lenny would do great together, that's just not the way I've got it set up. I've got to put myself over for all of this, and it's set up and all. But it's something that I can keep in mind for the future, especially if I get a second show on down the line. Although as a developmental territory, I don't know how much of that I would do. But it provides options, if nothing else. On the last show I ran, which was only the second, this is only show number 2, just because it takes a while to get everything set up initially. There's been a lot of time spent with that on the stream. So I'm looking forward to getting into this and seeing how it plays out. You don't have to hit the 120 exactly, but the way I've got it, where it's a 102, as far as total number of minutes, you got 120 minutes, 102 minutes on matches, 18 on promos, angles, etc. And that's because it won't allow me to have a television show yet. You have to reach medium level. I'm at insignificant, just brand new. Despite the talent on my roster and despite my affiliation and really ownership by All Elite Wrestling, just within the game, it's been a slow start as far as fan interest goes. But I had a dozen fans on the first show, and for this next one, I think it was projecting, it was a higher, but it was not exactly a big jump. And I'm not sure how the computer will handle this if I come in with a major contracts. Well, this is like the old, from 2016, this screen is similar to the roster overview. And instead of having like upper card, a mid card, lower card, main event, it's perception. And because I'm such a tiny promotion, almost everybody's either a major star, which I think is tops, or star. So, I mean, there are some variables in play, but these companies don't really exist, these feeder companies. It's just more concept than anything, and a chance to try this out. I mentioned on the last broadcast, I had never played with this game in that kind of way, 2016 or earlier, as far as having the parent promotion with a child promotion. But people have been talking about, like, clamoring for this specific role where you can play as that child company, have the computer as the one making decisions, good or bad, as the parent company. So with all that in mind, that's how I got to this point right here, starting what will be our second show overall as far as event. The main events for the vacant World Tag Team Championship. Of course, start at the bottom. Running into some of these problems with the crowd not wanting to see certain individuals. Some up from 12 to 15, so big boost from last week. So I guess it starts slowly. Hopefully at some point it'll pick up beyond this. It's kind of silly. Gave them 12 and a half minutes, so they had some time. And it's funny with this game because you'll get credit for the announcing and the color commentary even for an undercard dark match. Penalized for a negative crowd reaction. Makes me wonder about the main event with Hawkins and Ryder, who both were unfortunately in that same category with a negative crowd reaction on the last show. Uh-oh. A Smith's fracture. This is the first time I've encountered an injury in this game. Wait, he's got a move called the Morgasm? I think it was a car crash. And I know that's a strange thing to have on the undercard, and I may have just paid a price for it, but I've discovered that I thought I only had two different match types that I had to get in on every show. One being a storytelling match, one being a steal the show, which is like going all out. But then on top of that, you also have to have either like a car crash or a wild brawl. Or there's another one, but it's kind of strange having a wild brawl as a possibility when I have a stipulation where I'm not allowed to hire anybody that's listed as a brawler. With my road agents, I only used 4 on this show. The 2 that were from show number 1 that were not well received, in Hawkins and Amazing Red, I took them out of the mix. But Gail Kim and Gregory Helms both had strong remarks, and Chris Sabin and Scott DeMoore, it was like not a good, not a bad, it was just perfectly acceptable work, which is okay by me. Disrupted by injury. I don't know what a Morgasm is, and I don't want to know. I don't know what a Smith's fracture is. At least they like Barrington Hughes. So the pretty vocal crowd, not thrilled with Jimmy Lloyd, Josh Briggs, 2 of the people that were sent down to me for development from AEW, and then Mike Seidel, who teamed up with Barrington Hughes. And again, a pre-show match. I don't want to try to read too much into it. Penalized for an awful gimmick. I made the decision to keep the gimmicks for anybody that AEW sent to me to use. If you're sending with that gimmick to me, I'm going to do my best to either get it over or show where there may be areas to tweak it or find improvement. So Jimmy Lloyd, that's for an awful gimmick. But luckily that's all undercard, so these ratings like 33, 40, they won't go into account as far as the actual show goes, I don't think. Okay, so like I did on the first show, I had Dave Prazak come out and just welcome everyone. I don't know how an introduction to the crowd would get a bonus from having a road agent or producer, but apparently it did. This is where Alicia Fox makes her debut. So Alicia seemed to handle the improv better than Dave Prazak did. And these are little things that I think by paying attention now can be helpful later. If I do something similar on down the line, make sure to give Dave a scripted segment. I like the fact that Alicia improvised well, because I think that's going to be beneficial. If she's going to work as a manager, that's going to be an important part of it. So there's my opener. So How Wicked they accepted, but No Way Jose. And you can't click on it to... I found that sometimes there are hyperlinks that are hidden in here because the text is the same color as the rest of the text in a given line. At least Hal Wicked's gimmick got over. That's a lot of red. That's not good. I look at Casanova with a 50. Big Cass with a 52. That's a good thing. So this started the Big Cass Cody Hall segment. 47 isn't anything to get too excited about, but you've got to think how low the bar is at this point. I have 15 fans there. Not 15,000, not 1,500. 15. We had a hot crowd. That's always a good thing. A hot crowd going make all the difference, especially when you think about how it is now, where you don't have fans in attendance, and it's an entirely different thing. Well, there we go. A 62. Exceptional match. And that was with Bestia being off his game. So ACH lost in week 1. It was ACH versus Leo Rush in the inaugural match for the Launch Wrestling Sprint Championship. And that's, I'll explain, I don't get too repetitive, but essentially that's and I'll get to it when we get to the actual match on this show that has it. But it's a 10-minute time limit match, and you defend the title every week on TV. Got a bonus from having the road agent work of Gail Kim. And she's been very good for me thus far. Between her and Gregory Helms, they've been my two best. Amazing Red getting the cold shoulder again from the fans. Sabin with a 61. That's why I put my notes to keep him strong. Not high on Amazing Red. So at least it's a good start to this storyline, which is just simply Alicia Fox and Connor. Connor was one half of the Ascension in WWE, a tag team that was never given a fair shot on the main roster. I mean, this is where a disconnect between NXT and main roster WWE comes in. You have the Ascension one day shy of an entire 365-day run. They lost at 364. Super long run as tag team champions in NXT. So they get called up, and what happens? From week 1, they're portrayed as Road Warrior ripoffs, Demolition, Powers of Pain, whatever. And that was what they did. That's what their main roster creative did with the team. They got that huge push, and all that time spent developing them as champions and learning how to work as champions in NXT. So the idea is that, okay, the whole notion of the Ascension, it's a very polluted thought as far as what I want to do with Connor. Maybe people forget the Ascension. And I realize this photo is one that has him in his Ascension garb, but I mean, there's a great selection of photos in there as is. So please don't take any of this as a knock on what Gary Woodward was able to do with this and everybody else that helped him as far as getting those photos in there. Point being, there are a lot of variables, but we were sent Alicia Fox and told to use her as a manager, help her develop. And Connor is not very good, at least in this game, on microphone skills, promos. So the idea is, okay, this is a spot where we could use Alicia Fox to help present Connor as this, like, unstoppable machine kind of guy. And so it's going to be Connor against Bob Holly. And I'm not sure how this match is going to get rated. Brought in Holly as a one-off. He had announced, just coincidentally that day, I think it was yesterday game time wise, that he was going to retire soon. It's like, perfect. There's a chance to bring him in and have Connor be dominant. Gail Kim, again coming through. Okay, that didn't end so well. But at least Connor and Alicia Fox made for a good pairing. That was a bit of a shot in the dark as far as not knowing a lot of variables in play. Someone in Alicia Fox who, when she was allowed to portray her character well in WWE, is like this, unstable, crazy type. She was very effective at it, and then they just never really used her with anything of note. It's really too bad. So at least that's a good start with that. The match itself, and again, the fans not thrilled. So that's not going to help things from a segment rating standpoint, but at the same time, I'm such a lowly ranked company that anything really within reason should help me to improve as far as people that are wanting to see my product or at least know about it. That's also the storytelling style, and I don't know if that hurt the rating. Might have. Thank goodness got a bonus for a hot crowd if we only got a 33. And there's also the issue of Connor being 40 years old in the game. And then Bob Holly in this game is about to retire anyway. So not ideal, but at least it was a good start. I'll take a bad match here in exchange for having Alicia Fox click with Connor. That's a good thing. So nice jump back here to 63. Exceptional match. And with the crowd not happy to see Yehai, which I don't understand. Well, maybe that performance I understand. But I'm afraid a Yehai fan going back to his days in Evolve. Now, by the same token, just because I was a fan of somebody and appreciated their work in real life doesn't mean that, I guess I can't click on his individual profile here. I mean, I'm not knocking anything that was done with this mod. It's been so much fun to play. But sometimes when you're playing with a mod with real world people, what you perceive them as and what they're actually represented as in the game at some point might not mesh up. But a 63 is still a strong performance. The title match, that was the first defense of the Sprint Championship. So Leo Rush wins at 8:09. Now, had it gone to the time limit, that's a successful defense. That it counts. And so it would be Rush carried over to the next week. But I want to at least have the first week, certainly, if not the first few weeks, to have Rush getting victories. And then maybe throw in a time limit or two at that point once it's established. And then after that, it really doesn't matter as long as it makes sense in the grand scheme of things with what you have in mind from a storytelling standpoint. I could steal the show because I had thought that if you had one match with the car crash rating that you'd be okay, but they want another match that has steal the show. So there are 3 match types you have to work in every show: storytelling, steal the show, and car crash. Now tried sneaking the car crash one on the pre-show and got one of the prospects that AEW sent down to me injured on a pre-show. So I'm going to find out when this part is over just how severe the injury is to, was it PB Smooth? I believe it was. And then sometimes there are people that have trouble with the command to try going all out, and then it ends up hurting their performance. See, again, Gail Kim coming through for me. And I wasn't quite sure what to expect with anyone, really, with the road agent stuff, but she has proven to be effective thus far. That was not supposed to be for Velasquez and Slater. It's supposed to be for Velasquez and Drew Gulak. Well, that's embarrassing. So I get for not going back and double checking. I was really trying to slam this together last minute style. Trying to get it all finished before the start of Double or Nothing. And I guess there was a pre-show match. I really should go back and watch that. As much as I like the BR Live interface, very easy to order. The video quality at one point started to have skipping frames a little bit, but by and large, it held up very well. But with Slater and Gulak teamed up, Gresham was off his game and still only got 73. That's a 68 segment rating. Exceptional match. On a bad night for Gresham. Penalized for the low heat. Well, this should fix that low heat problem. I've got a 68 match rating. I didn't think about Gresham with his gimmick because he was in just for this one show. But Gresham's not that big of a guy. I've seen him wrestle. Last time I wrestled in a tag match that had Shane Taylor, who's massive, and Lance Archer, real tall, big guy. But especially with Archer, he's got an underrated ability to work well with smaller opponents, which makes AEW the perfect place for him, because by and large, he's going to be running into that. Our main event, this is the match to determine the inaugural Launch Wrestling World Tag Team Champion. Now, Hawkins and Ryder had that problem on the last show where the fans weren't happy to see them, but they're just going to have to get over it. 68, I'm happy. So there was the pretty vocal crowd not happy about seeing Ryder or Hawkins, but the Shatter Machine, Cash Wheeler pins Kurt Hawkins. Plan from the beginning was to have FTR as the initial champs if I could get them, and luckily I was able to get them. It's kind of this weird dichotomy where you've got, you can't even think about real world pro wrestling in 2020 without thinking about the pandemic. As much as this should be an escape, and is in many ways an escape from the troubles of the real world. It's part of the fun of having your own game you kind of get drawn into, but because of the unique circumstances we face, in a more normal world, there wouldn't have been that much talent out there for me to be able to sign people, especially that would sign with me as this brand new company. But in this case, it's worked, and so FTR, the former Revival, are the first tag champs. I didn't do anything too crazy with the booking. So I'm pleased with that. I mean, our last two matches delivered. So we'll see what they say as far as, make sure I don't miss anything here. So I guess it will ding you on the overall match rating. Now, I'm not sure how much, but the fact that this match still was able to get a 68 is a good thing. A very hot crowd, that helps. A problem I ran into in the Thunderverse, the most recent save or game that I played, a mod that I played in TEW 2016. That wasn't even an element that would come into play with the negative crowd reactions like that. And it wasn't just that save, it was anything in the past. So it's a new detail. And again, if you're looking at this and trying to decide, you know, if you own 2016, should you buy 2020? I mean, I think so. I would recommend it. But this is here for you to be able to decide. At least that's my idea with it. Then talk pro wrestling and whatever else within reason. So we end with a 68 rating for our main event. FTR gets the tag team championship. Now we have to find out about the health of PB Smooth. I mean, we had 15 people there, so yeah, this is gonna boost us. I wonder if it'll be something where it's like after the end of the month when July starts, if we'll see a notable increase or if it'll just abruptly happen or how that's gonna work. What happened to Razor? Torn biceps have been plaguing guys in this game. There's PB Smooth. A few months. Oof. I don't know what a Smith's fracture is. Years of working in sports journalism, sports broadcasting, all that, I've learned quite a bit about injuries, medical stuff that otherwise I wouldn't have any interest in, but because there's a direct correlation, it's kind of important to know those things. Like when I was in college and had some friends that were nursing majors, they were like shocked when I started talking about like the anterior cruciate ligament and all stuff that not my normal wheelhouse, but because there's a certain need to understand all of that if you're going to be able to evaluate NFL talent and think about the draft. So there's a note here. It's probably going to tell me about PB Smooth. Now, I'm not sure how to find out how long he's going to be out, because I know how to do that in 2016. Look for a secret hyperlink. Personal info. I mean, it's possible that you can't tell in 2020, and it's just, although you should be able to at least get a ballpark idea, I would think. So, wow, he's getting $2,900 a month. Don't tell the rest of the staff that. So I guess I'll at least get paid to sit at home, but that's not going to make the parent company very happy with me, in all likelihood, because they're going to put him in a car crash match. All right, injured. Oh, here we go. At least it tells me here. 2 months, 2 weeks. So. And that's letting me know about Gresham being gone because he was brought in just as a one-off. But I was very pleased with the performance, even though he seemed to be off his game from the way it was described. Some morbid stuff. And I brought in Nova just as that one-off for that opening tag match on the pre-show. And that tends to be the way I play this game. And that's going to be especially true, I'm imagining, because if I have to work the Southeast every time, there's very limited volume as far as just available wrestlers in that region that you can bring in as one night only. With all that in mind, it makes sense to line it up ahead of time to have some guys that... I guess I could get some, I don't have to specify how many shows, and I can use them in that context a few times as far as guys, essentially enhancement talent. here we go. Call-up warning. I guess they saw what happened to PB Smooth and they're thinking, all right, we're calling it back up. So Danhausen in 1 month. I guess he made a quick impression. I like the way it tells you ahead of time, gives you a chance to plan. So it's not like Ohio Valley Wrestling with WWE, where like no notice, they just call people up. Or they want to see what somebody looks like with a shaved head, so they just have to have it done that day. They can't even build it to a stip match. Okay, well I can have, well, I guess Danhausen's going to be going up quick enough. So I'll have another month with him though. Now the question is, would they want me to use him on, let's just say television? It's not technically a TV show, it's these weekly events. But I'll take a wait and see approach on that. We've got another month with him, so it's not like it's just grand opening, grand closing. Where's Bob Holly? He's brought in as the one-night deal. I didn't mess things up, but no, I couldn't have. Unless I messed it up at the very beginning when I was setting up that show. Those two are identical. That's odd, because it showed me something different when I looked at the information. At least I thought it did. They're my titles, so only to 16 thus far, but we'll get it there. That started at a 30 and remains at a 30. And likewise, there are the tag belts for FTR. I'll have Chris Hero defending the title on the next show. Got a couple of ways I can go with this. I can have one of my guys challenge him, but then that burns through one of them, and I don't have anybody that's going to be a good fit for that. He already lost to, or Heath Slater already lost to Hero. And that'd be way too soon to rematch them. Although I do want to have a rematch because they click together well. But that's something that would make sense for Slater to just get another shot. I guess I can pull this up so y'all can see it too. So I think, did I ever put that, I don't think I ever put that Hero interview. That's why I got rushed through it. So that was a mistake. Unless I'm just overlooking it because I didn't put it detailed enough in my notes. Here we go. Oh. This is where I had the information that was, again, these are not big numbers. It's just below. Okay, I was just presuming they got that amount. Well, that's, isn't that discouraging? We'll put out a quality product and that's all we can do. So from 12 to 15, we'll see how many we draw in the next one. Maybe we'll break 20. Storylines. It's considered hot. So now that I know that Alicia Fox and Connor make for a good pairing, the next question would be what to do with Connor. Seems like these storylines are at least initially working out. Although I imagine that the requirements are very low at this point, considering how my company is listed as insignificant. They heat up to 59. And the question is, do I go ahead and have their first singles match on the next show? I've kind of been going in that direction. That would be a good semi-main to go with Chris Hero defending the title against a well-known name from the outside that can come in and put over Hero. So that's going to be my next thing before I decide anything else with the show. I feel pretty confident that's the most sensible thing to do. I mean, I can immediately just push Connor to that level, but first of all, the audience is still going to take some time to have to learn to like Connor. That negative reaction, that go-away heat, potentially. At least that's the way I interpret it, with the way it's laid out. I have to go through later and add the detailed results so I can have that available as need be. There we go. Just trying to get where some of this will actually be on the screen where you can see it versus me staring it down. Gotta check the battery on one of my smoke detectors upstairs. Here it beeping. I hope it's not coming through on here. It beeps just infrequently enough where you don't want to immediately go and just turn it off. So if you can, if that's audible, then I hope it doesn't bother anybody. So launch TV. And now it's no longer a vacant tile. I just copied this over from week 1. Let's plug in Chris Hero versus X. X being whoever ends up having the opportunity to challenge for the championship. And with 2, I think we go ahead and have match number 1 in that series with, or not really a series, but with that rivalry that has built up between Drew Gulak and Cain Velasquez. I still can't believe I screwed up the deal with Gulak and Cain that highlighted their feud. Instead it was Cain and Heath Slater, who had no connection to the game really at all. In the end, I don't think it really mattered that much. And especially Slater was teaming up with Gulak that night. So can't get too caught up on that. Too hung up on it. I will have TJ Perkins available for the first time on the next show. And it was one of those kind of weird things where I was going through doing the negotiations and inadvertently didn't set him at 1 appearance, but instead got him for unlimited. And at first I wasn't happy about that, but then thinking things over, and particularly looking at the creative. There's Slater, Leo Rush, my sprint champion, and then look at that Perkins. Now, keep in mind, he has obligations elsewhere. New Japan Pro Wrestling and Impact. But it's easy enough to look at his schedule and see, okay, we run Wednesdays, so, or actually we run Tuesdays. I keep thinking Wednesday with AEW having Dynamite on Wednesday. Now for July, at some point we were going to run into conflict. Like here's the Dare to Dream, the G1. Now I wouldn't think that TJP would be working shows in the G1 since that's a heavyweight tournament. but I think it's because the computer has the possibility of potentially booking him on the undercard that it's going to block me from using him. Point being, I wouldn't want to put the sprint title on him unless I did like on the first show that he's coming in and then take it off him a few weeks later. I don't think that's going to be the best course of action. But that's something more to think about a little later. So you've got Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, the former Revival, now FTR, the tag champs. You got Slater. Let's see how he's doing. He's back to... Sometimes I still think of talk to worker like I'm bringing up their profile. But that ends up being a way like find out, would they be willing to take a stunt bump or a crazy bump in a match? Maybe the better bet. Oh, thank you, Coco. I appreciate it. Thanks for the hosting. We'll find out soon enough of this whole $126,000 in debt for, what, 2.5 weeks of operation. But when I'm running shows that have like 12 people or 15 people in attendance and it's getting, you know, a smattering of views on YouTube, there's only so much I can do. But I found out that the main roster crew is sometimes going to send somebody down to be ready very quickly to bring them back up. So Donovan Danhausen, they were nice enough to give us 28 days or 4 weeks, 1 month warning. So at least they give me a heads up on that. All right, so owner goals haven't changed. Just don't be dead last. I can't fall below dead last. I started at 21. There are only 21 companies going right now. So that should be doable. Instead of all the brawler and the comedy. Okay, yeah, I don't know. With this whole thing with Twitch, it's still a work in progress for me as far as learning everything, as far as the rating and the hosting and all that. So, but I appreciate the effort. I don't know if I want TJP to have a degenerate gimmick. I don't know if that's going to work for me. And if you're trying to figure out how to get to somebody's page to change their gimmick, again, you have to just somehow know, or just get lucky and click on it, because it's a hyperlink. But a hyperlink that looks like the rest of the text does you very little good unless you know what's already there. So there is that sort of element to this as far as the learning curve goes, but I promise you, at least from what I've seen thus far, it's worth having to jump through a few of the hoops and the UI things that I don't particularly like myself to play the game, because there's a lot more depth to it. And I didn't anticipated that necessarily. I wasn't sure what to expect. I mean, they've had several games in this series, and they definitely seem to have improved a lot of key things in a lot of positive ways. So if I have to know to look here to click for the semi-secret thing, then so be it. So you can tell our priorities below New Japan Pro Wrestling and Impact. So there will be some shows on Tuesdays that he's going to have to miss for me. But that's not why I came to this screen. It's very simple with this. You just click on it, and it's cancel gimmick change. In 2016, you had to actually go in each time for everybody and jump through like 3 or 4 steps as far as you click here, you click on another thing. You've got to type in none, N-O-N-E, because there's a bunch in the N category that come before. You can't just jump to it easily. A lot easier with this, as you can tell. See, no gimmick. It only takes us 1, 2, you're done. And not that I'm trying to sell you on it or whatever, just to demonstrate how it works much easier in some way. So while it is tricky, you have to know to click on the name up there to pull this sort of stuff up. It's more than worth whatever aggravation that might cause, at least in my opinion. Anyway, they sent me a manager. I didn't know he was going to be starting until that particular day. I thought he was still negotiating. It's Joey Eastman. So I've got to find somebody to have him manage. He's got almost no rep here. Microphone skills leave something to be desired for somebody that's supposedly a manager. Now, he also could be an announcer, only we have more than we need on that. And his announcing is subpar anyway. Did it for color commentary. I mean, I set myself pretty high as a play-by-play, just because that's what I do in real life, so I put myself over a bit, so I don't need him for that. As a personality, and that leaves manager. I don't know what as a personality who would do like sit-down interviews. Why would I do that? His microphone skills aren't that good. He's got some charisma, good reputation. So it's a matter of figuring out, okay, who might he be a good fit with? Let's see, based in New England. But I suppose that's part of the challenge of being a child promotion, is being sent somebody that has perhaps a limited skill set, and you've got to figure out, much like Paul Heyman with original ECW, figure out what the strengths are and what the weaknesses are. Spotlight the strengths as much as you can, and stay away from the weaknesses as much as you can. That's how most normal companies would run things anyway, but the pro wrestling business sometimes is anything but normal. But I'm less concerned about that at the moment. I can assign him the day of the show. I can figure out who I want to have him manage. So priority number one right now is to find somebody I can bring in as a one-off that's free to work on the Tuesday of week 4, and to be a viable contender. Somebody would be reasonable, bring in, get a shot right away against Chris Hero for the world title. Hero to beat whoever I bring in, and then their one shot is done and they can do whatever else. So a wrestler who can work in the USA. I want someone who's based here. So if I'm paying to fly somebody in, I mean, if I really go through all this and I can't find anyone that's going to be a good fit, okay, we'll see about international options. I don't really care about nationality as long as they're here. Status, maybe an active wrestler. It's an all-male promotion. As far as the wrestlers go. Of course, got Gail Kim as a road agent / producer, and a really good one too, at least in this game. Thus far, she's been. And now Alicia Fox in as a manager. But at the moment, I want to find a good striker, not like Matt Striker, but striker as far as like effective, believable looking elbows and forearm shots and punches and things of that nature. Chris Hero has a lot in his playbook. He's very versatile. But I would think the easiest thing would be to find somebody that's go a little easy, 30 charisma. Okay, somebody that's a charisma vacuum coming in. Stamina. If you're working a main event, I do want their stamina to be high. Although I'll have to check what Chris Heroes is listed as. And then popularity, and in particular Southeast, because that's what we're running. And we'll start with 60. Let's see who's out there that fits all these criteria. Quite a few. But now, it lists exclusive written, so I wouldn't be able to bring him in if he's another company. But this is my parent company. But I mean, they're not going to send him down to work with me in front of 18 fans or whatever. So there's one thing as far as sorting goes. works for. I have it as any because otherwise, looking at each individual one that I might be able to bring somebody in from, it's just, that's a bit unwieldy. I'm just looking for people I can potentially, here's my problem right here. Intention to hire. Now let's see what happens to this list. See? Now I know Rowan won't work with us because he already said that before. Pac is with the parent company, AEW. The stamina's there for RVD. I know Rusev's a no, plus he's injured. And then Ryback was a no. And so while I don't want to go too heavy on the nostalgia, ultimately we're working to establish this new championship, the launch world title as the big singles belt in the company. Now I can bring him on like a recurring basis. Now I do need to check one thing because he's with Impact. I think it's the same situation as TJP where he wouldn't have been available yesterday game time wise, Tuesday of week 3, but Tuesday of week 4, hopefully he will be. Best to look that up before I negotiate though. So I click on him to bring up his profile page, look at schedule. See, that's what I was talking about right there. We had this past day. If I hadn't booked him for that, I wouldn't have been able to use him for that. But Tuesday of week 4 is wide open. So I think it'll be Rob Van Dam, presuming, and look at that 65, that's actually quite good. Now, I have to make sure he comes in willing to do business. And by that, that's Carney for do the job. I mean, he's coming in to put over Hero and to have a great match, ideally. And I'm fine with giving him an open match, meaning like he gets about as much offense as Chris Hero does. I'm not trying to squash the guy. And normally a written contract in previous iterations of this game, the previous releases going back 2016 and before, 2013. I don't know all the year numbers off the top of my head before that. I think it was a 2010. But it's been a consistently strong game through the years. And a ton of work was done to put this one together. And the more I play it, the more I enjoy it. And that's about as high praise as I can give for something like this. Relatively early in the process. I don't want to go fawning over it too much. But I keep finding things, little bits of like depth that are added. Like everything from the way negotiations go to personalities in particular. As a people person. Alright. So to negotiate. I'm just going to do the one show. You can tell he won't be cheap, but that's okay. I mean, he's coming to work my main event. My first ever title defense of my top championship. So if it costs a little extra, it's more than worth it. Now we'll go the ongoing just because there's no reason to limit it 1 month. There's no need. Now, if something were to happen between now and that upcoming Tuesday, then if he had to be out for a little while, not a problem. I'd have that one appearance in my back pocket, and I'd have to shuffle things for the show to be sure. Travel costs he'd be coming in from Southwest. They usually understandably want me to pay to bring him in. So I'm fine with that. 10% is as much as I can go, as high as I can go per AEW in this game, as far as our merch sales. 1,700, I'm fine with that. One appearance, 10% is covered on the travel. Let's see. Okay, that's not a problem at all. We're well away from being able to run house shows. You have to get medium size or insignificant. So no problem there, RVD. I could go events only if I wanted to, but yeah, he's gonna want more money. I'm really bidding against myself the way it feels, but it's a matter of seeing how much go above 10% or it'll ding me and say nope. About 1750. About 1799. Good grief, dude. 1825. It's one show, RVD. How many shirts are you going to sell in one night? We have like 18 people that show up at our shows so far. That would actually be a good night the way it's been so far. 12 and 15 respectively. $18.99. Let's see if he takes this. Dude, come on. Although I keep going up with my numbers, so maybe I shouldn't be too critical. But the problem is if I reach his number and then he starts wanting creative control, I may have to look in another direction. Come on. It's one match. What, $19.99? Okay. Well, it's one appearance. Although I guess the way it was worded, ongoing, it in theory could go on indefinitely. Okay. So one appearance within the next 9 months, which would, the game time actually would be in 6 days. All right, finally. So we'll hear back from them, but that's once they accept it like that, that typically means it's locked in. It's just a matter of time of when they finally are willing to sign and get it back to you and all that. But the next show is until Tuesday of week 4. 6 days should be enough, and if it doesn't happen, not the end of the world. We'll find a workaround. But for now, got my main event for the next show. For the semi-main, had this Drew Gulak versus Cain Velasquez feud kind of build up, and now they're going to finally have their first match, one-on-one. Although I don't know if I want Gulak to win or if it makes more sense to have Cain win. Normally I write it where the winner is first. That way it's easy for me at a glance to figure it out. And I get confused about what I was thinking on a given match. I think I'll put Velasquez over Gulak. At least that's my thought at the moment. Oh, so I have to remember to scroll up so it can actually be seen. Well, I know we'll have a title defense of the Sprint Championship. That's every week on television. Now, going to the time limit is a successful defense. Although in this case, as I mentioned earlier, I want to hold on to what momentum I've got with Lio Rush and build him up to have a couple of wins initially. Working the time limit in is fine. Time is such a valuable element as far as storytelling goes, to the point where movies will go to great lengths, almost ridiculous lengths, to get sort of a ticking clock in a movie just to add to the drama. Whereas pro wrestling could have a ticking clock on screen, but with the exception of 2004 TNA of all things, nobody seems to have it figured out. I guarantee you, I promise you, if WWE used an on-screen clock, everybody else would be doing it too. And that bothers me because that company, that poisonous influence. Oh well, there are worse things in life to worry about. So for now, I'm going to put X next to Lio Rush. I'll have to think about it as far as trying to build up for the first team to challenge FTR. Got the Colognes, and that's a possibility. Although they lost in the first show. My intention is for FTR to hold on to the belts for a while. fans won't like this very much. I could make it Godders and Doan who end up, because they're unbeaten at this point. They won their tag team match. Granted, it was against Jimmy Lloyd and Josh Briggs, who were two guys signed as true developmental talent by AEW in the game and then sent down to me to use. Those two of the 5 they've sent down thus far. And wait to see if there's any response or how they're going to deal with it, with PB Smooth getting hurt now out 2.5 months, give or take. But they didn't have anybody getting mad at me about it. And it wasn't like it was intentionally done, but you have to use a car crash or wild brawl, or there's another one on the show. And I really didn't have a good space for it up here. So I put it down there in the pre-show. And Smooth got hurt. Although I could have had just a regular match and Smooth could have gotten hurt. You know how it is with this game. Pro wrestling in general. I might do a 6-man tag. Let's see, and the X is just a blank spot that'll be filled in. Very much the Japanese style, as far as when you see something that's listed that has a card with some question marks, as it were, on there. And really, I think it's in my best interest to keep Godders and Doan away from FTR until they'd have their first shot at the titles. You can't do every build the same, just like, it always throws me off there with the music. It's like every 62 minutes it does it loops back around. Alright, so we've got RVD coming in. Now that's an odd pairing. Blue Panther and Cranio. At this point, it's like Mad Libs. They're just plugging in names. 72. It's funny watching those old 605 Eastern World Championship Wrestling shows on TBS, where back in the mid-'80s, Teddy was working as a referee. And then later, I think in WWE, he was a ref. And obviously, he's an on-screen personality as well. Oh, Bo Dallas had the performance of the night. What an interesting show. Samoa Joe and Shorty G, Chad Gable, Chaz Betts. I'm going to try like crazy to get Gable. Now he's under an exclusive written contract. Hey, Loose Cannon, how's it going? Going through right now, looking over, I was just lamenting the fate of Chad Gable with that awful Shorty G name. So I had my second show last night, and it turned out very well. I'm doing well, thank you. I watched AEW Double or Nothing tonight, so I really enjoyed the show, so. This was the last show, most recent one. And yeah, I made a major blunder not putting in where I'd planned to have a Dave Prazak interview with Chris Hero, but I was trying to get everything done by the time Double or Nothing, the actual main show, began. Yeah, okay, this is tricky with how to get TEW to work on OBS Studio. You have to go through and I'm afraid if I pull it up now, it's gonna mess something up. I'm just gonna have to see it. That may be kind of weird on your screen. No, okay, it's gonna drive me crazy if it's like that. Because I'm afraid it's gonna mess it up, I don't want to do anything too wild, but oh, that's lovely. Well, if nothing else, you see it wasn't through any sort of a great amount of skill with this. Trying to make everything fit on the page. But essentially, I set up in the top right-hand corner, and I use it's not just the game. I'm trying to do this from memory. I haven't worked on it the last couple of days. I can set a game mode at some other kind of mode. Oh, you're using Streamlabs. Okay, I don't know how it works with Streamlabs. The only experience I've got with this is with OBS Studio, and I'm still a relative novice. And look, I've been doing computer stuff a long time. I mean, I designed my first website 25 years ago, 1995. But there are always new things to learn and new technologies, and especially with how things are now. Always keep learning. But essentially, I was able to make it where I set the dimensions, and it puts it on screen for me. Now, the caveat is, if I open up this page right here, then it does a run-in, and you see what it covers the screen with. Although it's like turning a negative into a positive, because now I can have information that I'm looking at, and people watching the live stream can see it. So if there's something comparable in Streamlabs that would allow you to kind of manually choose the radius, as it were. I pulled up a past episode on my television just to see how it looked, and within like HD dimensions it fit very well. So I was pleased with that. Now, here's my problem. There are like 15 people. And I've got all this talent on the show, but that's just the way I guess I have to do it. I mean, perhaps it would have been a way for me to start initially with a higher ranking. Maybe window capture, that sounds right. That sounds... Because there's game capture and window capture. It's like with Fire Pro Wrestling World, game capture works. But with this, I tried game capture with with Total Extreme Wrestling, whether it's 2020 or 2016 or anything before, from what I've seen. It doesn't work that way for whatever reason. And I'm sure there's some important programming or coding or whatever reasons that are just beyond my area of expertise. But at least with the window capture, or maybe screen capture, it's, again, I'm afraid if I pull this up, it's going to mess up my live feed. But that sounds right. But that's how I did it. And just, it's, again, I considered a negative into a positive that I can bring this up here. At least trying to turn it into that. Let's see, 15 fans. We had 12 fans of the show before, so I guess it's been very much a slow grassroots effort. The problem is, I'm looking at 126,000 plus in debt. And this was my first month, game time wise, of playing as a child promotion with an AI-controlled parent company. I know a lot of people were really excited about this particular possibility with the new game. And then I looked into it and I saw why. It brings a lot of new elements into play that really hadn't been there before. So assuming that the costs being accrued here will be dealt with without too much hassle from the main office in Jacksonville, it should be okay, at least for a little while. But I'm going to have to get the word out. Can I hand up some vouchers? Is there some way around this? But I'll look at the popularity or size. I mean, I'm sitting there at a 0. My guess is when July rolls around, I'll have a month of game time spent playing, and hopefully there'll be an adjustment. Because normally, like, you look at the progress, and it's month by month. Well, this is where I started the month at a bunch of zeros everywhere. I don't have distribution, even on YouTube, which is weird, but you kind of just have to suspend disbelief as best you can. Like, so YouTube doesn't work for me in India or Oceania as far as my, not exposure, but yeah, I guess it would be. People can watch the product, although at this point it's very small volume, which is weird because I've got some very good talent, but that's just how it is. Now, Joey Eastman, I mentioned him a little earlier. That's somebody that was sent down from AEW to get some training, and it's going to be more challenging, I think, than Alicia Fox. Now, granted, I got lucky with Alicia Fox being a good match with Connor, of all people. And so we'll see how that plays out beyond just that first week, but at least they had a bond that seemed to form that hopefully will work out. But Alicia Fox, you look at her microphone skills, 68 to 76. I mean, that's not top tier, but it's better than I was just looking at dude's promo. Where is he? Or is Melendez? Eastman, there he is. His microphone 49 to 62. So definitely an advantage for Alicia Fox, but I have some time because it's not something I'll have to worry about until we get to Tuesday of week 4 as far as Eastman goes. So again, what I'm thinking right now at this point for week number 3 television, 6 days from now, we've got RVD coming in as a one-off, and hopefully he'll be as good as his stats reveal. I think maybe perhaps more stamina and perhaps a little stronger in this game than he is at this point in real life, but I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. It's a main event. Cain Velasquez, Drew Gulak, built up to it for a couple of weeks, so it's going to mean something, at least in theory. I've got to find somebody to go against Leo Rush that will make sense. Rush is going to keep the title, but I'm already going to have one outsider coming in to challenge for a title. I don't want to do it with 2. I've already had ACH against Leo Rush. That was the first week. That was to determine the first sprint champion. Sprint championship, for anyone that's watching that hasn't heard me explain it before, I'll have to start learning how to say this in a succinct manner, because I imagine I'll need to explain this. But it's really simple. It's a 10-minute time limit. The champion defends every week on television. If it goes to a draw, it's a time limit draw, the champ retains. And it continues on. It's like a melding of CMLL with those 10-minute blitz matches that are really good, and the Smoky Mountain Wrestling Beat the Champ TV title. Although with that, you would have 5 successful defenses, and then you would just be done as that champion, and Smoky Mountain would decide on a new one. To me, that's almost like if you want to compare Jeopardy from 20 years ago, where you get like 5 days total, and then that was it, you had to go, versus Jeopardy of today. I'm talking about the syndicated game show Jeopardy in the United States. I realize there are people from around the world that watch this, so I don't ever mean to just assume that people know everything about what's going on in the U.S., because my excursion, my amazing fall in 1998 in Harlaxton College in Grantham, England, had the time of my life. But it was a very good opportunity to see that the rest of the world doesn't just concentrate solely on the U.S. Anyway, with all that said, it's an improvement, I think, over the Beat the Champ TV title concept. And it takes into account the idea that there's more of a frantic type situation with that time limit. Again, time is a powerful storytelling element, and pro wrestling, by and large, has done a very poor job in the last 30 years or whatever utilizing that, at least in my opinion. Now, there are exceptions, like last year with the G1 match between Sonata and Okada, where it went down to like the final few seconds. It's fantastic. Great finish. I could have No Way Jose challenge. Now, he didn't get exactly a warm reception. I could have Connor challenged, but I don't want Connor to lose at this point. I could have Big Cass challenged. Now that would be something. Leo Rush against Big Cass. But I don't think I'd be doing either of them a favor to do it that way. I could do something similar with what I did with Fred Yehai, because I had Yehai in week 1, got a win on the pre-show, and then week 2 had a match with Leo Rush. It'd be a good match, but Leo Rush was victorious. So I could go Shannon Moore, but I'm disinclined to do that. Or am I? Let's take a look at what Shannon Moore's listing is. It's still weird to me to be... This is normally stuff in my head I'm thinking this when I'm playing this game, so it's still a little bit strange for me to verbalize it like this. I mean, it's cool. It's, you know, as people see at least 1 or 2 possibilities what might make for some fun additions to their game if they see something here that they might think makes for a interesting scenario to try out. And likewise, I'm watching somebody else's stuff, you know, all kinds of ideas. I could go Chris Sabin, but he was lost in a tag match on the last show. Now, he didn't drop the fall, you can see here, but keep Sabin strong. Well, I guess in week 1, Shannon Moore was on the losing team. I didn't drop the fall, but the idea of the sprint title is that basically anybody can challenge for it. There's not any weight limit restriction or anything like that. I wonder if I might team up ACH with the Revival. I'll put a question mark next to it since I'm not sure. That's a consideration. I think I'm going to continue the Cody and Big Cass thing for at least another week before having them face off. And let's see. Maybe this time Big Cass's side gets the advantage. But again, we don't have Cody Hall drop the fall. So Big Cass and to be determined X against Cody Hall. There it is, right in front of me. You know, as you're looking at it, granted, this is a bit of a wall of text here. Looking right at it. So, again, I'm pointing at the screen as if you can see me point, but you can't. But it's where my mouse icon is there. So I could have, well, I don't know if I can have Cody team with somebody else. Because I'm going to need Goddard's and Dome Strong so they can challenge for the Tag Team Championship on episode number 4. At least that's the working idea. Now, I don't have to have the titles defended every week or every other week even. So there's that consideration as well. I'll have to think about that. The sprint title's an every week title, so that's going to be in there. And it's possible to kind of week to week go between the singles world championship and the tag team world championship. But I don't want to get too predictable with it. And I'm definitely of the belief that titles mean more when they don't change hands all the time. When it really means something to be the champion. You're not holding it for a week and a half until the person in charge of the company gets distracted by something else and they take the belt off you, and there goes your push. least it would make sense for No Way Jose to get a shot at the title, since he did get a singles victory on the last show. And the way the sprint title is treated, I guess is the word for it, the way it's booked, inevitably there's going to be a wide range of people who are going to challenge, and you get somebody that's champ for a while. And I won't keep this title on Leo Rush indefinitely, but for a while, to at least establish it, I think that makes some sense. So Big Cass and X versus Cody Hall and X. Asterisk here, because that person's going to be asked to drop the fall, do the job. But it protects Cody Hall since he's not the one losing the actual fall. And then maybe the following week on TV. Now, granted, the problem is the payoff of Big Cass against Cody Hall might leave something to be desired. Maybe not, we'll see. Just knowing what my fan base, the 15 people showing up, so that's what I'm thinking at this point. So I have ACH in there with Revival against a 6-man or trios team, whatever you want to call it. Now, I don't have to have all of this just, confirmed, locked in at this point, but I'd like to have a general idea. And maybe this is a spot where I can use Danhausen, since we've been given notice he's going to be called up in a month to the main roster. He was one of the guys sent down for seasoning. So there's a chance for him to work with Big Cass. I'll probably have Cass beat him. I'm not sure I'll have Cass team up with yet. Probably worth pulling my roster here just to go through this for a moment. Things to look for here about the momentum and happiness. Alicia Fox's crazy gimmick got over well. And despite not exactly being well received by everyone, Red seems to be happy enough. Now, Harris, he lost on show number 1, I believe. I don't think I used him on show number 2. So TBD or to be determined, Harris. Barrington Hughes, although I guess it's not always the case if you're on the losing team and you don't drop the fall, because that's what happened with Hughes on the last show, and he ended up with cooled momentum. So far, only the one match to judge him on. I mean, he was the best of the 4, but a 32. I mean, that's just not going to cut it. Although sometimes the ratings they receive in the pre-show have a certain ceiling to them. Anyway, so he has cooled momentum, so that is evidence of being on the losing team. If you don't drop the fall, it can still hurt you. But it doesn't always seem to happen that way. At least, I can tell you, at least anecdotally from what I've seen thus far. Like there's Bestia 666. He lost on the last show to ACH. See, there's where on the first show, Velasquez pinned Eris. But as best I can tell, Bestia, let's see, that was week number 1. I just didn't change this to the versus to D for defeated. So Bestia is really 0-2 at this point. But then you look here, and he's got war momentum and he's happy. So you got Melendez. He was on the losing side in a six-man tag last week. For now, I'll wait and see. And then for on, I'll bring him in and have him lose. I mean, that's, not everybody can win. And we're not going to have this be the 500 club like it's WWE. 50-50 booking and whatnot. So there's Chris Sabin, who was on a team that lost this past week. Or I say this past week, game time wise yesterday. All I did know to keep him strong, so perhaps that helped. And Sabin was on a winning team in week 1. I need to find a place for Connor. I might not keep him this low on the card. I may move him above the 6-man tag or above the tag match with Big Cass and Cody Hall. And that's going to depend on kind of how I want to book it. Also, to keep TJ Perkins in mind. In theory, I could bring in TJP and have him instead of No Way Jose, but then I'm bringing in 2 brand new to my audience guys to fight for championships. At least Jose's got 1 match on his win-loss column to the good. So someone like TJ Perkins and unknown. Actually, it could be just a one-on-one match for all I know. I don't want to have just bloated cards for the sake of it. Now, if there's a case to get a victory for 2 or 3 guys that could use it, then okay. We already have 1 6-man tag, and obviously, as you've seen in New Japan and plenty of other promotions that are similar, All Japan and all, you can have more than 1 6-man tag match in a given show. There's Casanova. I'm not planning to run New England anytime soon, but if I did, give me a little extra boost there, at least in theory. Now, it's also this problem here with Cody Hall, is that he's not all that highly ranked popularity-wise, although he's jumped up to at least 17. But with Cass, that gets a little weird. But perhaps the saving grace is that Big Cass seen as a major star, Cody Hall seen as a major star. Got the warm momentum, very warm. He's happy. And so while there's that vast difference in popularity, ultimately, Cass beats Danhausen. Might have Cass then beat Cody Hall directly. Just see how it goes. There's Hawkins. But in the last 2 shows, we've had Hawkins and Ryder in the top 3 matches on the card. And they don't have to be on every show every week. I mean, there is some nice popularity. But when there's not a need to have them on a show in a given week, they just lost, so have him off TV for a week, and then next week bring him back and figure out some other direction to go with it. There's Dave Prazak, who gonna have him handle a lot of the interviewing and the microphone charisma. That's decent enough to get you there. Plus, he's my CEO, so he's gonna be there anyway. Why not utilize him? See, they're one half of my tag champs, understandably happy. There's Danhausen, who had exactly one match on my show to then immediately be called back up with a 30-day notice. But I'd rather have that than him just be disappearing after a week. Gulak sitting there at 46 popularity. So I've got some build for this match for the next show. With Cain Velasquez against Drew Gulak. So actually, I'll have to squeeze it down, just click elsewhere, and then it'll be covered up. Epico with cool the momentum. If there was any sort of disappointment from that second show, it was the relatively low rating that the match got against Red and Saban. You got Facade, who I guess haven't used yet. Guess he hasn't worked for anyone. On a pay-per appearance, $90 a pop. More like someone that would be in an enhancement talent kind of role. Although it's a 20, I mean, he's got more popularity here than Cody Hall does. But a lot of the things are just too low to have him in. This is, as far as I can tell, having him any sort of serious push or exposure is not going to particularly work well, I'm guessing. Not with my audience, certainly. But we'll work him in there. Now what to do with Fred Yehai. He's on the upswing as far as Southeast goes, which ultimately is what I care by far the most about at this point, since I'm only going to run the Southeast for a while. Gail Kim has just been doing a great job. And as a road agent, I mean, look at what she's got. 100 on the reputation, 100 on the respect, and 90 on the experience. No wonder her segments have been boosted by her every single time. And then with Gregory Helms. I'm going to have him on every show as a road agent, so it makes sense to use him more. In theory, it could be a pre-match or pre-show match. I could stick him with Shannon Moore again. Just have Helms get the win. But that's just me kind of thinking out loud and just kind of slotting some things very tentatively into it. Hella Wicked lost in the first show, but see that popularity up in Tri-State, but here it's 17 for Southeast, and that's the one that matters. Didn't mean to bring up this little pop-up box, but I did. So now what to do on this show with Heath Slater? A lot of the winner's side's getting filled up. And then you got Slater. least he's happy. And he's a major star. I could team him with Big Cass, as strange as that might sound. At the very least, I can put him there for now. In theory, I could have him on the other side from the Revival and ACH, but I don't want Slater to be on the losing team because he's got the cool momentum. And this is where the trickiness begins to set in for anybody that's playing this game, trying to book things for the long term. And with Goddard's, and it's funny with him because I knew of him well before he got into pro wrestling when he's on the show Big Brother here in the U.S. Dude's got a really good drop kick. I haven't seen any of his matches in a long time, so I can't speak to him to that as far as his current skill level or how it appears to be. But again, we're setting up Goddard's and Doan to be the first challengers, particularly since they weren't part of that initial group of 4 teams vying in kind of a de facto mini tournament to figure the first champs, which ended up being the Revival, also known as FTR. It seems to be working out rather well for me to have an 8-match show. 2 hours to fill. And you get the full 2 hours. It's not like with commercials. See here, suddenly though, it's one name after another to fill in on the losing side. But that's where I can hire people from the outside. That's where we've got developmental guys. And this ultimately, this is a developmental product. Taking the liberty of already putting Rob Van Dam in here. I put a question mark since he's technically not signed yet. I mean, he will be in all likelihood, but I'll put signing TBA or PTBD, I guess, to be determined. More that than an announcement. Of the two, Goddard's is considerably more popular. But that's okay. Now what to do with Connor? He's got some more momentum. He's happy. He's really clicked thus far with Alicia Fox. Even though his match with Bob Holly wasn't all that good, it was a very short match that was to establish Connor as this dominant star. So I'll have to find somebody that'll be opposite him. Lenny Leonard, every show we work together, slowly but surely we'll build up that rapport, and then at least hopefully we'll be able to help improve the matches that much more. And when I say we, I really do mean we, since that's me right there. I wasn't afraid to give myself some extra charisma as well. The announcing, I really put myself over. So it's me working with Lenny Leonard. And I got huge respect for Lenny Leonard. By himself, he has called some shows very impressively. Like for Evolve, where it's like he did, you can tell he did the prep work and put the time in to get ready for everything. And he goes out there and just nails it. Talked about Connor, not McGregor. And now there's Leo Bryan. He had the bad match with Big Cass in week 1. I didn't use him week 2. I'll make a note here on the to be determined. Although in this case, the determination is to be made by me as opposed to the computer getting it set. But I think it should be fairly straightforward. There's my launch sprint champion. Popularity's there. Danhausen, who is going to be going up to the main roster soon. Josh Briggs and Jimmy Lloyd, who have had team ups in the tag team. PB Smooth got injured. He'll be out for 2.5 months. Alicia Fox is the manager. At this point, I don't see why it's going to change in the near future, but she's the manager for Connor. And so now the question becomes, what do you do with Max Stardom? We worked a pre-show. This is not encouraging. When you see those numbers at a glance, it looks like that was the number of viewers we had. That's the threshold. We didn't reach above that number. It doesn't indicate how many actually watched. But again, I don't know what other thing I can do at this point, but just slowly but surely try and build the company name up and hope that I don't have my parent company get too upset with me. You know, this being such a new thing, brand new for first time ever in this series for 2020, a bit of a learning curve. Not even a learning curve, but a learning experience, opportunity. Seidel at 29. Granted, he's got some developmental guys in there he's with, but he's 36. Not well respected, apparently. But he's somebody I can put in there in an enhancement type role. Although, as crazy as that is with all that working against him, he's seen as a major star by the 15 people that showed up at the last show. All right, so No Way Jose, got the momentum, he's happy. It'll be a different kind of opponent for Leo Rush, but that's what I've got figured. And then Jose can go back to the opening match and we'll be just fine, at least in theory. PB Smooth. One thing I may have to be careful with, and I may go ahead and hire a lot of lower end guys. If I have to I have to find a spot on the pre-show to get my requisite car crash match in. I don't risk having it end up like what happened to PB Smooth getting injured on a pre-show match just because I had to have one of those matches on the card. So Primo's feeling good. Epico, well, I guess they're both happy, but Epico is going to need to get another win at some point to get his momentum in the right direction. Scott D'Amore working as an agent. Fine. And so tentatively I've got Helms and Moore. Have them on the pre-show. And then probably that week 4 when I have a tag team championship defense. I have Goddard and Doan challenge Revival, FTR. That's where I can have Helms and Moore lose to a team. Like, let's say I have it be the Colognes. They can lose to the Colognes, and they had a little bit of time to actually get a win or two under their belt before they lost. Even if it's a pre-show, it still counts. Plenty to like about TJP. Popularity, the 50s. And so I've got him set for a singles match. And again, as I mentioned before, I try and have every match, at least on the regular show, pre-show not as much, but every match have a purpose and mean something. So it's not just a match for the sake of a match. I want to get Goddard and Doan over as a serious tag team. Perkins debuting. I'm sure he can have a great match with a wide variety of people. With Connor, it's more a matter of finding somebody that will have a strong name value, but that Connor can beat relatively quickly. Trying to give him some protection as far as how he might end up exposing his abilities or lack thereof to work a singles match after years on the tag team side. I had to make sure their weird spelling of Connor is what I had down here. A lot of this up here is he's not going to have a technical classic. He's not going to be the next coming of Rey Mysterio Jr. flying through the air. His psychology, you don't want him to be in an epic. Good reputation, though. Maybe he's not as respected, but has some experience. But then you get down here to the selling and then consistency. It's good, very good. Safety being 54 out of 62 is a bit disconcerting. But the stamina is there, so I can have him in like a 12-minute match if I need to, not worry about him huffing and puffing at the end. He's a 40 in popularity. And at least thus far, the partnership with Alicia Fox as his manager seems to be working out pretty decently. I mean, this is enhancement stuff here. He's 25, so I mean, and again, he's the computer version. I'm not picking anybody in real life. This is not a reflection of any of that. It's just a game and how the mod was laid out and how I happen to see it within the game. I should have picked a further away picture. I've got that photo as a further away shot. That was before a Father Ryan High School football broadcast because of the purple and white checkerboard kind of look. So there's Max Stardom. He's got that cool momentum. But you look, he's $90 a show. So having him in an enhancement talent kind of level makes sense. Now, whether I'd want to have him against Connor, probably not. Not a big enough name. Against TJ Perkins, maybe. 20 level popularity. Question mark. Next star. Another question mark. So he's only had one match so far, and that was a loss on the pre-show of the match, or the show that just ended one day prior in the game. The thing is with Mike Seidel, he does have some ability. Look here, and that's... You'd think his aerial would be better, but it's not. Flashiness is there, but I'm not looking for flashiness necessarily. I'm looking for something that can have a safe match. The selling's good enough. But the problem is that 8-level popularity. I started to put in Max Stardom or Mike Seidel, but that's not going to happen. And he might not be booked on the next show. I don't know. It's not at every person on every show. So we're at No Way Jose. We'll be challenging for the Sprint Championship against Leo Rush on the next show. PB Smooth, recovering from injury. Talked about the Colognes, Epico and Primo. Scott DeMoore, road agent. Got the Shannon Moore. I'll have him on an undercard tag. With Gregory Helms. We already talked about TJP. There's Todd Sinclair. Then you got Trip Cassidy. His weirdo gimmick has not gotten over, but so it goes. difference is he wasn't one of the guys sent down from corporate from AEW Jacksonville. But even though his gimmick's awful, I mean, I'm not going to just have to be a non-gimmick guy when he's wearing whatever that is. That a mask? Is that a face paint? But you know, he's with the selling, consistency, safety, stamina. Certainly capable, but at this point, he would be more somebody to use to put over the spotlight talent. And there's Zack Ryder. And while Ryder was on the losing side in the main event of the last show, there will be options for him. He's cleared that warm momentum. But I may have just not have him on the show this week, and then next week make a point to book him. I don't have to keep them as a tag team per se, but that has worked out pretty decently to this point. All right. So, assuming we get Rob Van Dam signed, it'll be Hero defending and retaining against Van Dam on the next show. Cain Velasquez versus Drew Gulak. We've built up to that for a couple of weeks now. We'll see how they deliver. Leo Rush against No Way Jose, which will be interesting. Revival and ACH is a 6-man tag against 3 opponents to be determined. Do a little bit of hiring. I know for a fact I'll need to do some hiring. Because I have to get at least one person in that can be is a one-off, just like I brought in Bob Hawley. Hopefully this time around, better meshing, gelling between the two, between Connor and whoever it is. Although it's going to be a short match anyway, because that's the idea with Connor. And at some point, Connor gets built up enough, he challenges Hero, maybe loses in the end, but it's a lot more viable than just throwing out Connor of the Ascension and just putting him up there, because that would be a questionable move. Right there with a 40. The popularity's there to justify. Now, Hero's at a 55. But point being, if I'm comparing that with like Danhausen, 20, or Goddard's at a 40, more like it. But for now, he's the tag team. Where is Doan? Yeah, Kenny Doan. So, building towards them challenging the Revival, and with the idea of them to lose, but still, it won't hurt that, okay, so Doan's only a 20 in popularity, Southeast. And that's the only one that matters to me right now is the Southeast. You got Goddard's at 40, so it'll work out. So you can find somebody for Connor. Some people will fill these spots. I don't know if I really want Max Stardom on this show. Goddard's and Doan, building them up. So we're going to build up Helms and Moore again, and then figure out some of these names. We're going to plug them in. Well, it's pretty late here, so I'm going to wrap this up for now. After the feed is over, I might go through and look and maybe make some decisions on some talent and who to use and who not to use on the next show, or who to save for the following show. So as always, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. I'm still learning a lot when it comes to the whole Twitch live stream thing. I type in thanks for watching to the chat. And so that's it for episode number 7 of Lou Pickney Plays Total Extreme Wrestling 2020. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.